Hello, and thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited you could be here because today we're talking about like three of my absolute favorite topics. We're talking about business credit, we're talking about consumer credit, and we're talking about financing as well, like the loans, the credit lines, the good stuff. So you're going to leave this interview with like the blueprint to be able to do all these things, be able to build your business credit better, faster. And I mean, this is more of an in-depth look than we've ever talked about before. And to be able to get your consumer credit straight to open up even more financing and then to know like the financing options that are out there for you now. And I'm really honored and excited to have this guest on with us because we go way back. Like we've been doing, business credit in the same industry for quite a long time. And I've just been able to watch him blossom and grow. And it's just been so exciting. I'm super excited to have him here. So with us today is Herman Dolce. Now, Herman Jr. is known as the Haitian CEO, and he's a dynamic entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in the credit industry. Now, as the founder and CEO of Sloan Enterprises, Herman built a successful business that specializes in credit repair and business credit solutions. Now, since its founding in 2017, the company has helped hundreds of clients, ranging from individuals seeking to restore their credit to small and medium-sized businesses looking to secure capital for growth. Now, under Herman's leadership, Sloan Enterprises has become a trusted name known for its effective customer-focused approach to financial empowerment. Now, with a strong background in business development and commitment to helping others achieve financial independence, Herman has worked with over 600 businesses across diverse sectors, including credit repair, trucking, and many, many more. So his mission is to provide practical, holistic solutions that helps clients regain control of their financial futures. So from offering tailored credit repair services to helping build business credit and improve credit worthiness, Herman's work is driven by his passion for simplifying financial processes and delivering impactful results. Herman, what's up, man? Thanks for joining me.
I'm Ty. What an amazing intro. I'm absolutely honored. I'm feeling good today. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. And by the way, like I had to cut stuff out because there were so many things you've done that like your accomplishments, we could be here for 30 minutes just going through those. But kudos, man. Congratulations to all your success.
Thank you so much. It's been an amazing 7 year ride since I first signed up with all the educational benefits that Credit Suite had to offer and put a fire under my butt. And you and your amazing team planted seeds in me. And these are just the fruits that I'm enjoying right now. 7 years going on, 8 years later.
Well, and I appreciate that shout out. As you know, at large, it always comes down to your drive and ambition. But
Mhm,
what I love about what you've done is we talk about business credit all the time. I don't think I've ever talked about it at the depth you talk about it because you're
mhm,
taking your students and your clients and you're
mhm,
teaching them the banks to apply for. You're teaching them funding stacking. You're teaching them,
mhm,
the credit bureaus that each lender is pulling. So
mhm.
what made you go down that path of having that level of insight that you've been able to gain over the last decade?
Well, one of my mentors taught me we have to be transformational before we're transactional. So it's part of my lead generation by giving as much value and free information as possible, getting people to get those receipts, because I have a tagline that's called Success Has Receipts. And when they're like, wow, I got this information for free off of Herman's YouTube, his podcast, his Instagram. Imagine if I signed up for any type of services that he has. So that turned into an amazing business model. So that business model that works allowed me to go deeper and deeper in learning so much about this financial field. So learning where banks pull from, learning their data points to ensure that you get as much funding as possible was the key to my success, and I doubled down on
So when you have your clients and you're helping them build business credit,
it.
what does that look like?
Oh my God. Well, we got to go to the Credit Suite portal. We got to go to the proper business name that's not high risk, and teaching them how to get a proper business address, business phone number, the business website, all those things to be structured properly. Because I tell them first, your business has to be structured properly first. That's the first leg. Second leg is you have to have a good personal credit score if you're going to personally guarantee the business credit. And the third leg is having a good personal credit profile, because having a 700 credit score doesn't mean you're going to get funded, but having a great personal profile, meaning you've had credit cards before, you have them age, the limits are pretty significant, so that a bank will look at your profile and be like, listen, his business is set up properly, his personal profile is set up great, then we can get him 30, 40, 50, $100,000 on the business side.
Which you're legitimately doing. Like what I love about what you're doing is that in a lot of business credit building, you're starting with vendors and you're moving your way up through a process. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit more about where you're different because it's a big deal. Like you're focusing, well, I'll let you talk about it, but you're doing a lot with directly with banks. It's helping people get universal cash credit pretty quickly in the process.
Right, right. Exactly. So I'm glad you mentioned that because in addition of telling them how to personally guarantee and get funding, I'm teaching them the credit suite blueprint where at the same time that you're building business credit on the personal guarantee side, simultaneously you can go through your tiers of your U lines, your quills of building up your no personal guarantee business profile to get your paydex score up, right? So eventually, you're not personally guaranteeing any debt. So I show them how to use two credit profiles and get even more stacking. Send them to the Home Depot, send them to the Lowe's, things like that.
So when it comes to banks on the PG side, so you're also
Hmm.
helping them go into banks and get
Yeah,
funding like right away with
right
the
away.
personal guarantee, right?
Correct. Correct. Yeah. So how I teach them how to do that, and I know you kind of talked about the credit stacking and way that where they pull from. So I teach them this strategy. So I know that American Express pulls from Experian. I know that Navy Federal Credit Union pulls from TransUnion. I know that Key Bank pulls from Equifax. So let's say, for instance, not a regular day. Let's say, for instance, not the most sexiest day. You go to American Express, they're giving you 10. You go to Navy Federal, they're giving you 10. You go to Key Bank, they're giving you 10. You just raised $30,000, 0% interest in one day. And the reason why you're able to max out the limits is because once American Express pulls from Experian and you go to Navy Federal's only pull it from TransUnion. They didn't see the inquiry you just got on Equifax. So they're not going to drop your credit limit. When you go to Key Bank that pulls from Equifax, they don't know you just got $20,000 and have two inquiries on your credit report. So they're going to max you out also. So understanding that funding strategy, that stacking strategy is a great way to multiply and increase the funding you would have got if you did not know that blueprint.
Which, if you're watching this, I don't. I want you to go back and watch this again because what Herman
Mhm.
said is like it's massive and nobody talks about this. Like nobody's doing
Mhm.
this. You hear about credit card stacking, but what he's
Mhm.
doing is funding stacking, which is like you just do not see people doing this. So
Right.
Herman, do you help them, your clients go through and figure out which banks to get set up with, and then do you have them
Mhm.
like actually set up accounts with those banks and start seasoning those accounts?
Oh, absolutely. Now, there's two strategies to that. You can, I like to say all banks are relationships, right? So I tell people first, your first business partner is your job, right? So whatever, after you pay your bills, the savings you have, use that money to start your business, right? Because then you'll be able to test it out, make sure it works. There's no loss in your credit. Your second business partner should be your banks. So that's when you're going to American Express, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America, right? And since they're relationships, open up business checking accounts, business savings account with them, make a little deposit in them because banks have something called their internal banking score. So you want to start a relationship with them so that who do you think the bank is going to give money to first or a higher limit to? Someone who's put 100, 200 bucks in there for 30 days, 60 days, or someone who just walked up and like, hey, I like to get a credit card. So I like to increase the probability of you getting as much funding as possible by also adding the layer of starting a relationship with the bank, getting a couple of products, business checking, business savings, and then making a deposit in there.
So when they're going to those banks and let's say they seasoned a little bit, they've got a little activity, they're making
Mm-hmm.
deposits, then
Mm-hmm.
and they're going, you're sending them back to get funding. What kind of funding are they getting? Are they getting loans? They're getting credit lines? They're getting credit cards? Or is it a combination of the three?
Right. So everything has changed in the last 7 years. I've watched it change. So right now in 2024, unsecured business credit cards are the most easiest and cheapest money to get because you're personally guarantee it. You have a relationship with the bank. You're getting $10,000 to $25,000 with your eyes closed with a good credit profile and good relationship, right? Now, when we're talking about loans, when we're talking about lines of credit, that's when the banks have changed their underwriting guidelines and they're starting to request taxes. So they want to see a year or two of taxes, some profit and loss statements before they give you a business line of credit. And those have interest payments on them. That's why for new startup businesses, getting business credit cards and stacking them is probably the best way to go because these cards are 0% interest, 12 to 18 months.
So, and by the way, if you want to follow along, you should go to bellasloanllc.com. That's bellasloanllc.com. We'll talk about that throughout the show because there's a ton of
Absolutely.
more detailed information that's on Herman's site. So
Mhm.
that makes sense. So you're saying, hey, look, you want to focus on the easiest, fastest money, which is unsecured credit. If you're trying to
Right.
go for credit lines, which everybody seems to want, although ironically, nobody, if I ask them the difference between a credit card and line, nobody can even speak that. Nobody knows.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But everybody wants the most difficult of the two, just pointing that out.
Mhm.
And
Uh-huh.
then, but loans and credit lines, until they have tax returns and some seasoning, they don't. But you're sending them direct to get the actual unsecured credit cards and sending them to multiple banks to do that.
Correct, correct. Because that's the easiest, fastest, and cheapest money that they can get, especially for startups.
So if I come in, I'm a new business, and I have
Mhm.
720 FICO scores and a good profile, not just a good score, but
Right.
a deep
Mhm.
profile, some established credit. How many
Mhm.
banks would you send me to as your client? Like roughly, do you send me to 3 banks, 8 banks? Like how many banks do you would recommend that I go to get my maximum funding?
So before I answer that, I wanted to do a disclaimer and tell everybody that credit is a double-edged sword, is an amazing tool, and if you wield it properly, it can be a great offensive and defensive weapon for you and your business. But you want to be careful that you don't get into too much credit card debt. That's why when we onboard people, we have these credit consultations with them. Well, how much money do you need? Why do you need that much money? And let's see what we can do. Because when I know that, then I can tell them, hey, first round of funding, because I do them into rounds to answer your question. Let's go to 3 banks, to the 3 credit bureaus. Let's see what we can raise. So by average, our clients are raising between on a first round $30,000 to $75,000 in business funding. Now, if they're happy with that and be like, you know what, this is a great first round. I'm good with this, Herman. I'll see you in 6 to 12 months when the 0% is about to run out and we can go for round two. Some people, when I give them the first round of 30 to 75, they're like, you know what? I need more. I need 100. I need 150. So what we do is we get rid of the inquiries, right? I call that credit optimization by making sure your personal credit profile is optimized, by making sure that your credit usage is low and your inquiries are low. Once you get the inquiries off, we go for a second round of funding at 3 different Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian banks, and then we run the same play, getting you another $30,000 to $75,000. So now we're up to
And
six
again,
banks.
full disclaimer, and Herman has already said this, like it depends, like on your FICO and all this, you can't just take the number he's giving you and give you. There's a lot of variables. How many inquiries do you have, your
Variables.
utilization, your credit, like all that, what your limits now, there's a lot of variables. So
Right.
you come in, get somebody first round of funding, $30,000, $70,000. Do credit
Yeah.
optimization, come back in 6 months, and you can continue to do this like every 6 months because you have all of these sources to go to. And that's what you're
Right.
doing and stacking and getting them more and more money in time.
Exactly, exactly. And you do that over time, and it could be something really incredible.
Now, are you helping your clients then take that, let's say 50K in initial funding?
Mhm.
Are you helping them take that and then know that they can apply for increases to be able to get even more funding from that 50 but without even applying for the others that they'll apply for?
Oh yes, that's part of the education with the client to show them how to feed themselves. So once they start using the credit cards for true business purposes, whether they're maxing it out, paying them down, guess what the bank is going to think? They're going to think business is good. Wow, he had a $50,000 credit card. He put 25,000 on it this month, paid it down to 10,000, put another 50 on it, maxed it out, and paid it down to 5,000. The banks are going to think, wow, business is good. And in 90 days, I tell people banks work in 90-day cycles. In 90 days, you can ask the bank, hey, this 25, 30, 50 you gave me is great. But as you can see, I've been responsible with the money. Can I get a credit limit increase? And they'll gladly increase these limits. So I definitely recommend every 91 days, if you're doing good with the with the bank's money, to ask for a credit limit increase to increase your capital in your business without having to go apply for a new credit card.
One of the things I love about you that I think is one of the many things that make you so unique is you're dealing with business funding, you're dealing with business credit, you're dealing with consumer credit improvement or credit optimization as well. Not a lot of people are specialists in all three of those. A lot of people
Mhm.
offer one or two, they're not specialists, right? And I can
Right,
tell you,
right.
Herman, specialist. Like this guy's been doing this for a long time. I mean, when we met a decade ago, he's been doing this
Right.
for a long time. So on the consumer optimization, the credit optimization, what does that look like? What's the experience look like if I come in and maybe I'm not 700, maybe I'm 620, I'm 660, and I
Mhm.
can't get some of the credit you're mentioning. Maybe I can't get some, I can't get all of it.
Mhm.
What are you doing to help me on the credit optimization side?
Well, usually when somebody comes in at a 620, it's two things. Either they have poor credit because they have negative items such as collections, charge-offs, or they have newer credit, where their credit is young, so that's why they can't get funding. Or the third part is that their credit usage is really high. So they maybe have two or three great credit cards, but they max them out so their credit is really low. So if somebody has a credit score that is 620, but I can see on their credit profile that they're maxed out, what I do is I send them to a couple of credit unions where they can get personal loans to pay down the credit card debt. So that's a strategy that we use because a personal loan, number one, the interest rate is cheaper than the maxed out credit card, which is like 29%, right? So they'll save some money. I send them to credit unions to do that because they usually have a lot of people have relationships with their credit union right now. And as long as you have a job and you're making deposits, they'll give you a personal loan. So now the credit card is paid off, jumps up to 700. Now we can go get them some more personal or business funding. If somebody has negative items on their credit report, Bella Stone also does credit restoration or credit repair, where we help delete collections, delete charge-offs to make you look as sexy as possible, but then start you off with consumer credit because you want to have that built up before you can go and get some business funding in the future. So I like to tell people I'm building my future client.
Yeah, and again, if you're watching this, I owned a consumer credit company back in the day and sold it, so I can tell you that what he's saying is really invaluable, and it's something that's worth going back and listening to that again, because ultimately, what he's basically describing is that if you have issues, you need to add positive, not just remove negative, which a lot of people
Negative.
make that mistake. They think they could just
Right.
make bad to good just by removing bad. You have to have good to have good. So
Yeah.
that's something big. And then on same on the consumer credit side, it's just possible what Herman's describing because the law requires that the credit issuers and the bureaus meet certain requirements. Most of the time they can't, which is why Herman, in the decade I've known him, is like an expert at figuring out what laws they're breaking and then getting the stuff removed. So I
Right.
won't go more in depth in that. But on the personal loan side, I'm interested. You've got banks. You're sending people to banks and credit unions. But then on the
Mhm.
other side, you've got like a lending club, right? P2P lending. Like this thing is just blown up from Prosper and
Right.
these guys. And it
Mhm.
seems like lending club, Prosper, stuff like that is sometimes an easier path to get personal loans. Do you still
Mhm.
find that it makes more sense to send them to have them set up a bank account and then go into that bank to get the personal loans or the bank or credit union versus going like a P2P lender route?
So the P2P lender route is much more easier, much more friendly. I definitely recommend both. So just for expedited purposes, go to the P2P route so you can get the funding that you need. With the game plan of paying down personal credit card debt, I also combine it with credit unions and starting the relationships on the consumer side because the more relationships you have in the future that's going to help you because you can go to that same bank who has consumer credit because they may have business credit also. So actually having multiple relationships with them on that side is really great. A great example of that is Navy Federal. They have great consumer products that everybody is very familiar with, and they're pretty easy to get. But a lot of people don't know that Navy Federal also does business credit also. So if you do well with them on the personal side, they're definitely going to take care of you on the business side. So I use multiple strategies. And as you know, Ty, there's not one silver bullet, whether
Right.
it's fixing your credit or getting consumer funding or getting business funding. The multiple strategies is what made you and I build amazing companies.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that people are lazy. It's like
Oh, God. Yeah.
like if people just want the silver bullet, the easy solution, it doesn't work that way. If you truly want to get maximum funding for your business, what you're describing is an all inclusive, whole holistic strategy to be able to
Mhm.
do this. You're talking about fixing consumer credit while you're going and building relationships with bank, while you're coming
Yes.
out and getting personal loans from multiple sources. Oh, and by the way, forgot you're building those relationships with the bank. So now they make it easier to then transfer and start getting the business products.
Right.
And then you're being able to then apply and then go and do it more 3 months down the road. And then you're taking the existing credit and then you're raising the limits and getting even more. So every 3 to 6 months, you're literally just double and it's just compounding the amount of money you're getting. I mean, what you're describing seems like a strategy where somebody doesn't even need any other money. Like what you're doing gets them all the money they may need potentially through the lifetime of the business.
Of the business, right? You're literally becoming your own bank and printing your own capital, combined with a solid business plan, a great team. Yeah, you can build something really incredible with this information when it is yielded properly. Absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot of people describe being your own bank as in whole life policies, insurance policies, stuff like that. So don't get confused because what he's saying is truly, legitimately like being your own bank,
Yeah.
the way you're setting this thing up, which is absolutely just brilliant. So on the
Mhm.
business credit side, then are you helping people down the path of like I'm a over the road trucker, I need fuel cards. So are you helping them down that path as well on top of the universal cash credit side?
Absolutely, because understanding every business and their needs is crucial to helping that client grow and helping with client retention for your business. So I can tell them with Wex and Fleet and Pilot, oh, you have a trucking company, or you have a transportation company, or you are an Amazon subcontractor, or you have box trucks. Here, use these fleet cards for your business because it's safe for you to give them to your drivers. You won't, because I remember one time when I was in trucking for like 2 seconds during the pandemic, I was giving my drivers the American Express Gold Card because I got more points for that. But every once in a while, I'll see a stick of gum and a couple of can of beers on that credit card. So I was like, listen, everybody's getting fleet cards moving forward. So yes, knowing what the business your client is in lets you know specifically what type of funding, what type of product, and what type of cards they should get.
By the way, if I was one of your drivers, the can of beers would have been mine, just for the record.
Just saying.
Just
Just
saying, the
saying.
gum not as much, but the beers definitely
Right.
would have been mine. So how do you figure this stuff out? Like you understand lenders down to a credit bureau they pull. So
Mhm.
how have you gained that level of knowledge?
Can I be honest with you, Ty?
Yeah.
Men- Mentorship. Everyone is afraid to pay for mentor. If your mentor doesn't have a mentor, you need another mentor. My foundational information came from Credit Suite. Your platform has a plethora of information, ebooks, video trainings. I remember when I get on a call with Skip and ask him 100 questions, right? So having all that information, studying it, applying it and executing on it made me a better business person so that I can turn around and provide a good product to people. So when I got this mentorship and I executed on it, it made me really great. So like when you were talking about what banks pull from, right? I went to a mentorship and he taught me that creditboards.com is a great website that you can go to and it tells you what banks these credit card what uh, bureaus these credit lenders pull from. So creditboards.com is a great one. So I learned that and I was like, wow, this is great. So I had to pay for that information, but it was so good information. I was like, I can give this away for free and help out so many people. So I continue to do that. And I can't stress how mentorship has been such an amazing part in making me successful. I still take mentorship classes right now. I don't know everything.
Well, it's interesting and it's funny you say that because like I saw one of your trainings on the bureaus that people pull, and I thought, man, that's interesting. I never talk about that stuff. So I did
Mhm.
like a video on my TikTok or something on like on each one TransUnion Equifax experience using that as guidance. And I didn't
Right.
extol the info. I actually went and found, I had to dig
Mhm.
deeper than I thought I would to find the research.
Right.
And that was like one of my best videos that I've ever
Videos.
that I've ever
Right.
done. So I
Yep.
appreciate that, man, because I never even thought about talking about that stuff until I saw it from you. And then I was like, wow, that's a pretty good idea. Our audience could benefit from that. And then sure enough, it
Mhm.
was like one of our biggest, most popular. I think my most popular video actually came from that concept. So
Mhm.
it's just cool to see someone like you learn the basics and then take it to the depth of level you have. And I appreciate you mentioning mentorship because so many people are so cheap that they don't want to pay for the guidance and mentorship that you really should have to build seven, eight figures and beyond.
Listen, do not be cheap while you are on your way to trying to get rich. Don't do that. I tell people all the time, you're gonna pay. You're gonna pay with your time or you're gonna pay with your money. Either you're gonna pay with your time by going on YouTube for endless hours, or you're going to pay a true mentor that has done it 100 times and you are paying for their success and to learn from their failures. And it's like a an easy pass in regards to, hey, I want to get to the front of the line. You have to get a mentor that'll give you that Disney pass that makes you skip the line. So I tell people all the time, don't be cheap on the way to success.
You are a master at consumer credit, have been for a decade. You're a master at business credit, and probably one of, if not the best I've ever seen with cash credit. And what I mean by that, if you're watching, is universal on cash credit. I mean Visa cards, Mastercards, Amex. Like this is where you could just go like use a card anywhere. Probably one of the best, if not the best, I've ever seen in that area. What about funding? Do you deal with loans and credit lines? Do you help in that area as well?
Absolutely. Because what happens is a lot of startups do come to me and I help them get that easy capital. But there's some businesses that are already established. They're in the game half a decade, 20 years, And Ty, believe it or not, they had no idea what funding was. They were taking their capital, their cash flow, and investing it right back into the business. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's a slow growth. So when I started talking about getting $50, $100,000, $500,000 lines of credit, because I got real estate people that are coming to me making millions, and when they have those profit and loss statements, when they have those taxes, when they have those 4506Ts, and they're not afraid for the lenders to pull their taxes themselves, the sky's the limit in regards to the funding that they can get. So when a company is making $5 million a year, the rule of thumb is you can get about 10% gross or net, depending on the lender, of what you have made. So a company that's made $5 million, I know that we can go to a bank and we get them loans or lines of credit for $500,000, and now they can keep their cash in their business, and I know they have the cash flow to service the debt. So now they're able to 2x, 3x just with that $500,000. So everybody has to realize credit and funding, whatever the case may be, is gasoline that you can put on a business that is already successful. But when you start having paperwork, when you're on that side of funding, sky's the limit. We're talking 6 figures, 7 figures of funding.
Herman, what is something I should have asked you here during this interview that you think is important for people to know that I haven't asked?
I feel like that was a curveball right there.
Oh, I didn't mean
Uh,
to throw you a curveball.
no, no, no. Something you should have asked. I don't think it's more so the business or personal side. I think is what is the key to success? Because I know you interview a bunch of successful people on this podcast, and I think the answer to that is to be patient. Number one, do not look at people that are on this podcast or look at Instagram as a barometer for where you should be. Number one, social media, we only post the highlights. Very rarely are the lowlights or the difficulties for us to do this are posted. Me and Ty are successful because between the two of us is 30 years of success, but 30 years of a lot of failure too. So I like to tell everybody, be patient with your process and be consistent. And from time to time, I say the same. Put your head down for 2 or 3 summers. Miss everything. Miss every barbecue. Miss every party. I promise you, on the other side of it is absolute success.
And I love that you shared that. And it actually, if 900 something episodes, I think you gave me a question I'm going to start asking at the end of each podcast, which is if you had to pick one trait as an entrepreneur that you think could help an entrepreneur probably most be successful, what trait do you think that would be?
Oh, resilience.
Exactly what I would say. It's
Yeah,
exactly
yeah, it
what I
has
would
to be
say.
resilience, persistence, consistency. It all encompasses it. Because once you find your niche and you know what you're doing, you have to be resilient through it because in the beginning, no one knows who you are. Yeah, you're only getting 20 views or 30 views on your video. But my mentor taught me this. He was like, he had somebody come up and be like, oh, I only got 75 views on my first video. And he's like, oh, that's really good. And then he was like, no, it's not. You get 2, 3,000 views. And he was like, number one, stop comparing yourself to myself because you're comparing yourself to 30 years. Number two, I want you to picture 75 people in a room. And she was like, oh my God. She's like, right. For your first video, you had 75 people in a room watching what you had to say. It's only a matter of time before it's 200 people in a room and 300 people in a room. Stop looking at the views in comparison to other platforms, but think about it as people in a room. That is a very good, successful day if I get 75 people in a room to pitch them something.
Yeah, I love that. Herman, where can everybody go to be able to learn more and take a next step?
Well, I'm on social media on TikTok, Instagram, mostly on Instagram. You can find me at Haitian underscore CEO. That is HAITIAN underscore CEO on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm also on YouTube where I do long format teaching of free information, Bella Sloan Enterprises. And lastly, you can check out our website, bellasloanllc.com.
Thanks for coming on with us today.
Ty, I appreciate you trusting me on your platform. It was an amazing interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So listen, if you're watching this, I mean, this is a guy that I watched his stuff and get ideas to be able to talk about myself. Matter of fact, I see some of his stuff. I'm like, I don't know that stuff. I should learn that stuff. And it actually sends me down a path of learning. So You're talking about and hearing from somebody here that I learned from what he's doing and then use that knowledge to be able to help you and to be able to help our clients as well. This man is a master at consumer credit. He's a master at business credit and a master at financing. And rarely are you going to find somebody that's masterful in all three. So here's what you should do. Go directly to his website at bellasloanllc.com. That's Bella Sloan SLOAN LLC.com. At the bottom of his page, just take a minute and just click his social media channels and subscribe. It's less than a minute. And you're literally following the guy that I follow and I get tips and I get advice from. So in less than a minute, you're at bellasloanllc.com. You go down, you like, you subscribe. While you're there, check it out. You can learn about business credit. He's got a phenomenal podcast that you can actually see his podcast and see some really high-level guests on there as well. You can see consumer credit. You can learn more about that. You can learn more about business credit. He's got a resources tab with a lot of information and resources you're able to access as well, amongst many other things. So go to bellasloanllc.com right now. Stop right now. Like right now, do it. And then go to the bottom, less than a minute to subscribe to get expert tips regularly. And then also check it out. Look at the business credit services, look at the consumer credit services, and also look at the resources and other resources that are there. And then take a next step, reach out, connect with Herman and his team. Because again, I cannot tell you enough that what he's doing is not done. Like he's mastered an area that will maximize your funding where you might not need anybody else or anything else other than just what he has, right? So all you need now and start up all the way to massive expansion in one place, you can't beat that. So make sure you go to bellasloanllc.com, check it out, and also make sure that you're subscribing to all the social media channels while you're there. Thanks again for tuning in. Take care. Have a great day.